Good afternoon, everyone. Today, Rabbi Rashi Foundation takes you all and all our viewers through a very significant journey. This journey is about the three stages of life: passion, enterprise, and contemplation. We will gain clinical, artistic, and a spiritual perspective on all the three stages, elaborating on the concurrent problems and move towards a sustainable solution. We have a panel full of esteemed personalities who will not only mention the stepping stones, but take us through them. These problems are as lucid as water and need attention towards them. It is my honor to introduce our esteemed panelists. Ms. Pooja Singh, a practicing cognitive behavioral therapist with specialization in treating anxiety, personality, and addiction disorders. She also has certifications from Harvard in opioid epidemics and cognitive fitness. She is famous for running a school program named School Substance Abuse Prevention Program that is designed to tackle the addiction monster before it roots in the young. Our second panelist, Ms. Ratika Ram Kumar, founder and artistic director of the World Dance School India, mentoring 3,000 students. She pertains a master's in applied psychology and a specialization in psychoneuroimmunology and additional honors in cognitive behavioral therapy. Both our panelists have proved their skills and abilities to the world over and over again, and I am certainly honored to find myself seated in between of them. So we'll begin with the questions. The questions will be directed to the both of you, and the floor will be open first to Pooja ma'am and then to Ratika ma'am for 2 to 3 minutes. So the first phase of life, adolescence, also known as the passionate age, right, which I find myself to be in currently. So kids this age pertain high energy and learning capabilities. They had to stay at home for longer durations during quarantine. How do they cope up with this feeling of being contained, especially in their age of growth? What effect does this have on their mental health, and how do they cope up with it? The floor is open to you, Pooja.
So I'll start with this first. Let's get one thing very clear. And I mean, it sounds a little nasty. You guys are the technology generation. You are the telephone and the television generation. So it also depends on what you were doing before the lockdown got affected. So if you were a child who was playing a lot, who was stepping out a lot, who had lots of extracurricular activities, it is only those kids who are feeling contained. Children who were in any case on the phone through the day once they came back from school are not feeling that much of a difference. It's a hype. First things first, let's be clear. Secondly, yes, it's a learning stage, but because we in fact you have more opportunities to learn now because a lot less time is getting wasted, especially in big cities like Delhi and Mumbai. You know, the commute was wasting about an hour and a half. In Delhi, everything takes an hour to get to. So now you have those added extra hours. So learning is not been compromised actually. For children who do want to learn, the opportunities are much more. Lots of people have taken their programs online, so they're able to learn online. So both those things uh, on the field, both misconceptions. One, children are mostly not feeling restricted because many of them were already occupied with technology and media, right? Second, learning opportunities have increased. The one thing that I have found has really served you guys well, and I say you because you identified with that generation, is your life skills are very limited. You don't know how to cook, you don't know how to sew a button, you don't know how to, and again, it's sounding very condescending coming from me, and I'm saying you because our generation learned it in school. So Ratika, you'll agree, we had an SUPW class. You guys don't have that at all, right? So you are now getting exposed to saying, "Acha, bartan aise hote hain? Oh, washing machine aise chalti hai." Because the staff is not coming, it's you and mom and dad, and everybody's having to pitch in. So this 2.5 months have actually helped a lot of children that I know learn life skills that will help you once this pandemic is over also. So yes, it has had some sort of a mental health issue, but your bracket is the one that I think has benefited the most in terms of learning life skills. So that's my call. Over to you, Ratika.
Yeah, I think I would concur with Pooja entirely. When this question was posed and I read it, children have children your age have an inbuilt resilience, right? You kind of are very present moment oriented to begin with. That's the advantage of being a child. You linger in the present moment. And I think that is allowing children to kind of not be so impacted psychologically. Eh? I think what's for me, she stated everything very succinctly, but I think the takeaway for me is this has in fact allowed you guys to connect with your parents in a more substantive way. You see the intergenerational disaffiliation, as we call it, between your parents and you, is more because, like she rightly said, you're the technology generation. So this has allowed children and parents to reconnect very differently. Our current models of parenting still tend to be more centric on parents issuing commands to children. But right now there is no house help, nothing. So your imperative is to interact with your parent as a co-adult, which is something that doesn't happen in the Indian parenting system. We don't co-parent, co-adult, allow the children to be co-adults. So I think, yes, of course, individual life skills have accrued to you. But I think for me, honestly, what I've seen really is children connect with the parents as co-adults. And that has been significant because it allows you to have a more significant psychological relationship, to understand the issues of your parents as individuals. Again, that is something that lacks in the typical Indian family structure. My only concern has been for the subclinical group of children who struggle with issues emotionally. There is that subclinical population that is already afflicted with issues of anxiety and things like those. Those are the children who've reached out to me, and those are the parents that have reached out to me. They have suffered through this. So in terms of coping skills, again, what I'm recommending is that if you have a child at home who is struggling with an issue as we speak, then they need to be put into counseling. If you're seeing a child in your house who's become that much more reticent or apathetic, then you need to kind of, again, this is something we don't see in India, Pooja. Parents, this is my experience, even though my parents put their children readily into counseling.
No, they don't. It takes one to hit rock bottom before they even.
So that's where I've that's come to my notice. It's been very salient to me that this particular group of children have been impacted adversely, and they've processed it very similarly to how we've processed it. We're so taken aback by what has happened. So that focus the parent needs to bring to the child. If they find that the child is sullen, they need to immediately not be home counseled in that sense. They need to be put through formal counseling.
One thing I'll say, Anand, was that initially, so when we counsel a child, when we work with anybody, we also have something which is called a family or a support structure or a caregiver counseling session. That is, after every 3 sessions, we do a session with the caregiver, whoever the caregiver is. And usually when we were doing this in a real world, it was getting very difficult to get all the caregivers together. Now with this new situation, I have been able to have the entire family sit and do one class or one session on Skype together. So everybody is instantly on the same page. So therapy has been much more effective for me personally. Much more effective because the entire family got on the same page instantly और कुछ था ही नहीं करने को. So everybody sat and everybody learned कि अच्छा इसको ये हो रहा है, इसके संग ऐसे behave करना, and we made a lot of progress. So that is my personal experience in that area. Okay, let's step back to you.
As Pooja ma'am said, of course, after quarantine, it did widen my scope of learning capabilities. Of course, my mother taught me how to cook and how to use the washing machine.
Yes, there you go.
A beautiful point that Ratika ma'am made was that I connected to my parents as co-adults, understanding their individual problems. And another point that you beautifully explained is that a person or a child going through something doesn't need to necessarily be, treated or, be counseled at home. They need to seek professional help outside of home so they can help cope with their problems better. This is the key takeaways that I take from it, apart from all the beautiful construction that you both gave. So moving on to the next stage, right, which is the adulthood age, enterprising sort of a age. The main problem that this age relates to is that of a shortened career growth. people have lost their jobs, incurred major losses to their businesses. How do they cope up with these problems, which indirectly move them towards stress eating and substance use, anger issues, anxiety issues? How do people in the enterprising age cope up with these problems? The floor is open to you, Pooja.
Okay, so again, you're right, and the problem that you're talking about, it's a very real problem. Now, not to say that mental health issues are not unreal problems, but it is something that can be sorted out by, see, lots of times people say it's just an emotion, you can control it, and I say, well, not really. Hunger is something you can't control. Hunger is a very real emotion, and when it takes over your body, it just takes over your entire body. So let's not go there and saying that all emotions can be controlled. So your this stage, this whole you're having your, lots of people have lost their jobs. They're not getting salaries. It's been 3 months surviving off. It's a very real problem. And while at other stages in life, we can suggest going to a career counselor, we can suggest seeing a therapist, we can see a career coach, life coach. People sometimes now don't have the money to see those kind of professionals at all. So they say, "Bhai, paisa hi nahi hai, you're talking about something like this." Now, coming back to what they can do, again, one thing is that this time can be utilized to do certain courses that will make your CV sparkle once you are able to go back and start searching for a job. So please understand that when you get back and you tell your employer, I use these 6 months or these 5 months or these 3 months that I was laid off to achieve this skill, you actually get, you are seen as somebody who made good use of that time. So my suggestion definitely is that if you're out of a job and if money is an issue, look at your CV, strengthen your LinkedIn profiles, and definitely make your CV sparkle more by doing something that you can then tell your employer, your prospective employer, that this is what I achieved while I was laid off. To you, Ratika.
So I will not touch upon the reskilling bit, Pooja. You already talked about it.
Yeah.
People who are sort of out of work, a lot of them have taken to reskilling. Again, I have a slightly different perspective on this based on what's transpiring around me. This sudden lockdown has unleashed a massive adaptive response in this particular age group. Okay, I'm seeing people of this age group stop being compulsive anymore. Your entire life is shaped by compulsions. It's a huge social, psychological, emotional, financial construction. It's the imperative that you need to go out every weekend and blow a big hole in your pocket to kind of drink and eat and drink all the wrong things. I'm seeing that shift happen in people's emotional responses to what they've been doing typically. So initially, yes, the pattern broke down and we were all sort of adrift. No weekends out with friends, no drinking parties, no sort of going to a mall and shopping. Rabid consumerism has come to an end. You don't need to keep buying things all the time. So a lot of insight has happened. A lot of, breaking away from buying into the construction has happened for a lot of us, which I see is very adaptive, as very positive. Where I live from here, now I've been living here for 10 years. There's apparently a mountain here that I have not seen in 10 years. Okay. Pollution levels have dropped to a point where me sitting in my living room right now, I can see that mountain. So people are taken aback at, what is actually happening outside, as us humans have been forced to stay indoors. A lot of that rethink has happened. A lot of adaptive responses have come up. Stress eating is something that I condone. I don't condemn, and I'll tell you why. Pooja would agree with me. There's something that's called endogenous opioids in the body that are very sort of central to your biochemistry being in equilibrium. So serotonin reuptake inhibition. I mean, you would know what I'm talking. All of that, it gets taken care of today because you are allowing yourself to eat great homemade meals. Again, that's something that's bringing. See, a lot of us women who work, we've kind of bought into this notion of I mean, I can only talk about the bigger cities. This is what I see around us. We don't cook. Our maids cook for us. We don't kind of engage with that part of who we are as women. Now I'm seeing women all around me taking to cooking in a very passionate way. Again, how our mothers used to kind of rustle up dishes for us, and that would become a great connect for the entire family. I'm seeing that happen again. I've not seen it happen in the longest. Again, I can only speak for Mumbai, honestly. So that for me is already happening. Substance abuse, yes, has become a peril right now, especially for your, in fact, not the middle-aged age group, but of course, adolescents, young adults. Just yesterday, as I walked into my campus, there were two people sitting outside smoking up. They kind of made a joint, and the floor had been deserted for the longest. So that is an issue that I think will need to be looked at again. Adults I'm finding are taking to again more limited alcohol consumption, curiously, as compared to before. I don't know why and how, but they're sticking to that one or two pegs in the evening, right? Anger issues, um, again, I feel couples have been forced to let go of all these other things that they scurry to. Couples have been forced into proximity, into rediscovering intimacy, a little bit of you know, again, I'm seeing a little bit of conflict happening there. But I think it's an adaptive response, because you tend to, brush everything under the carpet. A lot of those issues are coming. You know what I'm saying?
I read this joke on a side note, and I laughed my head off. It said, man sent message to his girlfriend, and he broke up with her because he fell in love with his wife again during quarantine.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I think. The people are paying attention to each other as people. Children to parent is not only about, I'm the son and you're my mother. It's this person. So I think it's been adaptive, and somewhere this whole that we have. I think in all, other than what she already said, the imperative to reskill, this has been an adaptive, time for people who are sort of stepping out of prior constructions as well. I don't see it as, difficult in that sense, honestly. Yeah.
So one of the major things that I caught on by Pooja ma'am was that hunger is a real emotion. The
Right.
mental emotions can still be controlled, but hunger can't be. So we would like for people to strengthen their CVs and then go out with a bang. And then how Ratika ma'am said that the distortion of compulsion in people's life has led to a lot of change, and how even though it's a difficult time, people are adapting to it. There's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad, but the people are adapting. And then how couples are reconnecting because of the forced proximity. All of this is I am getting to learn a lot. I wasn't aware of all of this. I am finding myself to be blessed to be here. So I like to move on to the next stage in life, which is the contemplation age, which comes anything from between 45 years to 65. So the problem that changing habit is a difficult thing at this stage. Adapting to new roles is even tougher, which is a major hit to healthy thinking. How do people at this age adapt to change and new roles? And how do they cope up with everything, with their children leaving away? And then many people at this face having abandonment issues. How do they cope up with all of this?
So I think that is the segment that is hit the hardest in this whole pandemic thing. Now, what has happened is that in those homes where the children were living in the house with the parents and the grandparents, those homes have become wholesome again. The older segment is happier in those homes because बच्चे भी घर हैं, बच्चों के बच्चे भी घर हैं. But most of us are not living in that environment anymore. We live away from our parents and our grandparents. And now suddenly, you have this 65 to 80-year-old bracket, jinka staff bhi nahi aa pa raha hai, the people are not able to come and help, the children are not able to get to them. Their bread, their milk also became a sudden issue, right? So that, and they felt intense loneliness, because for them, that little connect in the evening walk or that morning walk, that person they met on the road was the only human interaction that they were doing. And even if they were, even if there was an old couple living together, they've kind of exhausted, their relationships like a straight line. So that is the part, that's a segment that I think is most highly hit. Their mental health and their health also both suffered significantly. Very little attention was paid to that, because we tend to brush it off. If our child is sullen for a day, we as parents run and say, "Kya baat ho gayi hai? What do you want? Can I get you a rasgulla?" And if the wife or the husband is sulking, we know instantly. But when the grandparent or an older parent is sulking or quiet or sullen, it will go missed for days before somebody even registers. So if you ask them कि कब से चुप हैं, they'll say कई हफ्ते हो गए. It's been quite long. कम ही बोलते हैं. And you didn't register that. And no, they didn't, because it's a given. So that segment is most hit. And as far as solutions go, well, there aren't many. Because to expose them to technology and say, hey, you know what, apna phone on kar lo, or get into a video call, talk to XYZ, even for that, you need somebody younger to do that. And that somebody younger is not able to reach them. Also, we are very cautious. We say, hey, don't go meet your older grandparents, because if you pass the germ on to them, that can be fatal for them, because their age group is at high fatality segment for COVID, right? That has been a segment which has been very highly hit in terms of solution. Again, very few, but people who can make a difference should. And yes, we can connect more, we can call them more, all of those kind of things. And sometimes I find myself saying things which I think should be normal information. But yes, you're right, that segment is very hit. And if you're asking me for solutions, apart from giving useless gyan, I really don't have any. And I really feel that it's for each individual to get up and say, okay, I'm going to look after my grandparent, and I'm not going to try and give gyan to the whole world, each child to I'm going to call my parent 4 times, and please don't give gyan to 10 other people कि अपने माँ बाप से बात क्या करो, आप करो 4 बार, and end it there. Just do your bit. So that's my answer to that.
Again, I think you've said almost everything I would have said. What has happened in bigger cities is, in Mumbai specifically, we live in buildings, right, primarily. The community response has been terrific, because everyone understands that this is the age group that is terribly hit. I'm seeing a lot of community initiatives where things are being organized for older people on an everyday basis, to keep them engaged and to kind of keep them feeling, people are scared right now, people have, in my building, there have been cases where I've been called a couple of times to kind of come and speak to the person, and they're typically 65 and above. One thing that again has happened, I can talk about, let's say, my parents back home. There are a lot of issues that you don't contend with. For instance, having your health insurance in place. A lot of things that this age group will leave open-ended, right? Because now they've sort of retired, and they've returned to living every day on an everyday basis, A lot of loose ends, so to speak, in their own lives. I'm finding that these people are beginning to look at the loose ends and resolve them. So I know of people who've reached out to relatives and children also who they've not spoken with in years because there were conflicts lingering, and they've sought resolution. You see, death is perched precariously on our shoulder at all times. It's just that right now, we've become aware of it. And especially for this group, they're more aware of it, because it's so in your face, right? And one thing that again has been a strength of our culture, which had kind of gone missing entirely, we call this vanaprastha. If we look at, the 4 stages of life that Hindus, or let's say the Indian subcontinent, considers as valid categories. At that age, you want to think about your mortality, you want to think about life, you want to think about death. All right, so there are like Sadhguru, I don't know if you hear his talks, but he talks a lot about contending with death. What is death, and why are we here, and where are we headed? These are questions that typically were pondered over by generations before us, much before our parents, right? And it is something that they don't want to contend with. And I think it's very important too. Even though this sounds a little gruesome, I think there's a lot of resolution that one wants when one is leaving this life, you know. And I think contending with death is very important for this age group because it allows you to enter your present moment more deeply, more truly, and more productively. So initially, yes, there has been a whole lot of distress about, you know, maybe I'm next. But at the same time, a lot of emotional resolution has happened to most people. Again, like I said, there is a smaller group that needs help medically and emotionally, psychologically. Pooja rightly said that we just need to pick up the phone and be in touch with our grandparents. I mean, there's no gyan, like she rightly says, that one can give. You know, you just need to take care of. So the imperative, the impetus lies on us, the younger people, than on them to reach out and say, okay, grandson, how you doing? You need to call your grandparents, right? But I think again, I think it's. I mean, we as psychologists, we know that people don't tend to think deeply. People tend to linger on the shallow end, which creates a lot of long-term issues, right? And especially for this age group, again, in India we don't have systems in place where they're thinking of medical insurance and, you know, their will and things like that. We leave it all open-ended. That formalization also is happening right now, you know. And yes, people are thinking about life coming to an end and what it is that they want to do going ahead. So again, I will see that as a positive. uh, it's a transition. 2020 is a epoch experience for all age groups, and I've seen that as constructive largely. I mean, I've not seen the kind of dysfunction that one was imagining would happen around you. You know, that's not happened. So that's a great thing. Yeah.
Recollecting on what you said, when the end is, right in your face, all the unresolved issues will come back for resolution. But what I really liked was like every other social issue, there are very less people who are willing to work on the grassroots level. Everyone's out there to debate and speak, but no one would actually go home and call their grandparents or their mother and father that, how are you? So it's about, right now in the time of crisis, it's about working on the grassroots level and doing your own deed rather than going out there and speaking.
Okay.
So we're a little short of time, so we'll just rush through all of the personal questions that we've tailored for you. Ratika,
Sure.
are people using COVID-19 as an excuse for their personal and professional actions?
Not an excuse, but I would say a reason. Like a lot of businesses that were running on loss, and you kept them going, you know, because your ego was involved. They come to an end. A lot of relationships come to. I mean, a lot of issues. Like I said, a lot of construction comes to end. So I don't see it as an excuse in that sense. I see it more as a precipitating factor to make the right choices. Yeah.
How has COVID affected you as an entrepreneur?
One thing that I sucked at, I'm sorry, I don't know if I should use this language, is I was very, very bad with, you know, being on social media. Very, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm being very candid. And a lot of my students always complain about me, you know, only showing up to take class or teach or whatever. So I'm connected with all my students now, all my students, and we are digitalizing. Now I have, till now our student base was limited to students in Mumbai, but now we have students from all over. So it's opened up a new avenue of growth financially also, and in terms of reskilling also, because we're now a part of the global community. Yeah.
Pooja ma'am, moving
Yes.
towards post COVID-19, right? What will be effect on the three Qs, the IQ, EQ, and AQ? How are we preparing for the AQ post COVID? Is there some sort of a fulfillment idea that we can get about the three Qs?
So I'll try and be quick with this. For the past about 30 years or more, parents and teachers have focused on nothing else but EQ. We only on IQ. We only and only lay stress on IQ. You have to have an intelligence quotient. And then EQ, थोड़ा बहुत parents कह देते हैं कि भाई थोड़ा manners सीखो ये वो करो. AQ is completely ignored. In fact, if you ask somebody what AQ is, most people don't even know that. The term for AQ, the one that we use, is resilience. Basically, it is resilience, right? Now, if you look through data and study, even if you do like a simple Google search, the first thing that will come up is, for your success, only 20% of your success is based on your IQ. The rest 80% is based on your EQ and your AQ combined, right? So I'm constantly telling people that ignoring AQ and EQ is a very, very stupid formula, and just saying maths karo, science karo, maths karo, science karo, and then not teaching AQ and EQ messes up big time. Now, resilience is anyways very, very low. Every generation, the resilience is going down and further and further. Any kind of change, even my generation, no, if you suddenly say, okay, you have to change a job, you have to go from here to there, people are like, oh, all hell is breaking loose. And if you see that maybe my parents, your grandparents' age, they were much more open to saying, yeah, abhi ye program cancel ho gaya, they would say, chalo cancel ho gaya, koi baat nahi. Suddenly 4 log ghar pe aa gaye, khana kaise banega? My mother can't boil an egg, but my dad or the staff at home would not panic. Or if we would suddenly go to other person's house, that person would not panic कि अब तुम आ गए हम तुमको क्या खिलाएंगे. All that is resilience. These are all signs of resilience. So we have learned one thing from this COVID time is that something can come on to you suddenly, and yes, the sooner you adapt and the sooner you get back onto your horse, and the only way you can do that is if you have a high what you call AQ, which is resilience. If you are able to change, adapt, and then move on further. So that is something we have opened our eyes to. Opening your eyes to something does not mean you have developed a skill set for it. We have just realized कि ये हमको आना चाहिए. Now, will we develop it or not? ये तो आगे का time बताएगा. As the years go forward, we will realize that are we going to develop it or not, or are we going to say, oh, my phone battery died and the world has come to an end. Are we going to continue with that? All right, go on.
One regular practice that you could suggest for better mental health, anything that our viewers could abide.
Okay, so one, again, very quickly, I'll try to sum this up. One thing I say is I hate the distinction between mental health and physical health. Anything, it's the same thing. The same practices that you have to do to keep your physical health in place is the same practices you have to do to keep your mental health in place. Sleep on time, eat nutritious food, exercise, exactly the same thing. The only thing that may differ slightly is that in order to keep better mental health, you must have authentic connects. And I use the word authentic connects with other people is because the more lies and complicated and convoluted connects you have, the worse it is for your mental health. So it's not about having many connections, it's about having stable, authentic connections where you can be your real self without being, frowned upon or whatever. So that is a huge advantage. But I definitely like to say never distinguish between the two. They are interconnected. One affects the other and vice versa. Right? And the one thing, again, the one thing that you asked, the one thing that I would really, really recommend is sleep. Sleep is that one integral thing that is very, very important to even begin stabilizing your mental health. That one is a huge recommendation. So it's like saying, what is the one ingredient that you recommend to make biryani? Come on, that's not possible. But if I really had to, I'll pick sleep. Go
on. This has been wonderful. I think I haven't learned this much in the past 2 months that I have in this present 40-45 minutes that we've been talking. I hope that the initiative Be the Help by Rabba Rashi can bring a lot of people together who need help. Right. And I hope that we can continue with professionals like you and continue talking and we can, reach to masses and help them. This has been one of the most wonderful things that I've done in the past since quarantine happened. And I find myself truly blessed to be, even
Because you're starting out now, I'll make a quick correction. I hope we can reach out to the masses and be of some use to them. I'm not looking to help them. If they can make use of me, great. Otherwise, that's okay. So try and be of use rather than help people. This help people thing is getting too blown out of proportion. It gives you a sense of magnanimity, which is not true. We are only there to be of assistance.
this has truly been wonderful. I hope we can get this esteemed panel again on our show. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you for having us. Thank you. Great meeting you, Ratika. Bye bye.